All right, let's get started with today's webinar. Once again, my name is Javier Ortiz, and I am your mentor throughout this program, Data Engineering from Udacity. All right, so hopefully you're doing great. Just a few reminders before we start. You can schedule a one-on-one mentor meeting with me every week through calendly.com/Javier Mortiz. Actually, let me share that with you. Remember that we have our study group here in Slack, DND session 963. And here each week I provide a weekly roundup of the lessons you have to cover that week. If we have any scheduled events such as these webinars, the link to attend the webinar, and the link to schedule a meeting with me. I just updated this calendar to include even more available slots. So just you may want to look into that to see if we have any slot that may suit your schedule. All right. So you have a project coming. I already made a walkthrough for that. This is due this Tuesday. So you want to be working on that right now. But since I already made a walkthrough for that, today I'm not going to walk through it again. If you have any questions about it though, don't hesitate to ask for help via Slack or schedule a one-on-one meeting with me so that we can work out those issues that you may have with the project. All right. With that being said, today we're going to do a little bit different. Since some of you already finished this project and have some time available, you might want to start implementing some of the older projects in your own computer. At least some of you have asked for that, and that's why I'm doing this webinar. So today I'm going to take you back to project number 1, and in project number 1 we're going to implement it locally, right? So as you know, Udacity provides an incredible workspace where you can submit your projects, but sometimes you like to make these projects work in your own computer. So just to take you back to the first project, this is using Postgres, and it's a relational database, and we have basically you created a bunch of tables, you created a star schema, and you inserted some values from these data that you hold it here. You're holding here, and you used an ETL pipeline which implemented queries from that document, and that's basically it. Oh, and you ran a create table which through the terminal, which once again borrows some methods from that SQL queries. All right, so that was a little difficult to say. Let me say it again. So in the SQL queries, what we do, just to remind you, you wrote the create statements and you wrote the insert statements. They create tables, borrows from these SQL queries to create the tables, and the ETL pipeline borrows against from the SQL queries to extract the data that you hold in these files, transform it, and load them into the tables created by the create tables. Right, now we're out. Okay, so how do you implement this locally? Okay, so I have I found an awesome resource, an awesome article. We're getting started with PostgreSQL and macOS. So this, I have a Mac, and I'm going to follow this one. For Windows, it's really similar, but you might would like to use find an article focused on Windows. But I'm pretty sure like it will work fairly similar. All right. With that being said, let's get started. So let me share my entire desktop here. All right, so I'm sharing my desktop now. Cool. So let me open a terminal since we're going to do most of our work here at the terminal. Great. And let me just make some space for it. All right, so the first thing that I did, I just downloaded all my documents into a folder. I have it here in my desktop because it's easier for me. And I have my create tables, my ETL pipeline, my SQL queries, and I even downloaded the Jupyter notebooks to test those. And the data, I downloaded the data from the same workspace. I mean, if you right click on the data, there is a button to download it. And I just ordered it like this. I didn't download all the JSON files because there were too many. But I mean, you can do that for sure. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install Homebrew. All right, so Homebrew is basically a package manager. So it like installs lots of packages for you really easily. And this article is cool because you only copy and paste it, and that's that. The article is from Code Mentor. So if you Google Code Mentor, getting started with Spark or SQL macOS, it's by Patrick Sear, so you should be able to find it. So I'm just going to copy this code to get Homebrew. I already have it, but I mean, it doesn't hurt if you run this code again. What's going on? All right. All right. And I run it in the terminal. Okay, so it's installing Homebrew. I already had it installed, but let's see what happens. All right, so it's running. Awesome. Installation successful. Cool. Now what we're going to do by using brew, we're going to install Postgres. So brew install Postgres. Cool. Cool. Okay, it's already installed, so that's why it threw an error at me, but yours shouldn't throw an error. All right. Then, I mean, you can make Postgres run every time your computer starts up. I don't have a need for that, so I'm just going to skip that. And then we're going to check the Postgres version. So Postgres dash capital B. Have Postgres SQL 11.2. Cool. So SQL has a sort of a command line itself, which is pSQL, which allows you to run many functions and that you can use to set up your databases there, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to know what users we have installed. So we do that by /du. And here I have a role which is Ortiz Garcia, which is my super user create, and which is the one that has all the attributes, all right? And what I'm going to do with this one is my default user, all right? And when we were working with Udacity's workspace, you had a user named student, I think. This student that you see here, it's the one that I created, but you don't have to create anything if you don't want to. You can use the default user that you have here. This gives you all the instructions to create a user if you want to. I'm going to skip it for now because I want to focus on running the running the different the scripts that we have. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a password. All right, so what you do here inside the pSQL, the pSQL Postgres, yes, we're going to write /password and then the name of the user, right? So, okay, and you can just enter any password. You have to enter it again. That's it. And so now I have my user set up and I have my password for that specific user, right? And you can create like different roles and different users inside that role, and you can create a database, right? And it's really easy. You basically start by writing the well, I mean, if you SQL, your user, all right? And I'm just going to write the create database, and I'm going to name it test. All right. So create database test. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to list the databases that we have with the list. All right. And here you can see that we have a database called Postgres, which is a default that usually comes. So if you don't want to create another one and you just want to use that one for this project, I mean, you can use this one. I created a Sparkify the same way I created this one test that you can see right here. And here's the owner of that. So it's really, really important that you know the owner, which is the role, you know the database that you would like to use, and that you know the password for that role. So you now know how to do through three of those things. You know how to get the role or the user. You know how to set up a password for that, and you know how to create a database. All right. So I'm just going to go with the Postgres one because it's the one that I already have set up in my script. And so the name of my database is Postgres. The owner is Ortiz Garcia, and the password is the one that I set up and with the password code. All right. So I'm going to quit this now. All right. And let me show you my table. So what you have to do, you have to go here in SQL queries where you have all your scripts. And you have to change the connection. Oh, the SQL one, you don't need to change anything. It's in the create tables and in the ETL. So in the create tables, as you can see here in the database name, I changed it to Postgres because that's the name that it showed that I have a table named Postgres. My user is this one, and this is my password, right? And I'm going to change it everywhere where I see it, right here, for example. And I think that's that for the create tables. And then I'm going to do the same for the ETL. I'm not going to change the ETL Jupyter notebook because I mean it's just the same as the ETL. All right, and here I'm going to look for the different places where I need to make a connection, and I'm going to change everything right there as well. And yes, here is so the database matches the other is Postgres, the user is Ortiz Garcia, and the password is 1234. So now that I have all of that set up, I can go back to my terminal. And in the terminal, I want to make sure first to move into the folder that holds these scripts. So mine is at the desktop, so I'm going to change to that folder. So using CD, going to desktop, and then ls basically lists all the folders that you have in the current folder. And I want the project Postgres equal. So I'm going to change to project Postgres equal. And then let me list, right, I have all my scripts right there. So as you remember, you have to run first the create tables script. So it's running, nice. And once I've done that, I can run the ETL script. All right, and I found one file, which is the one that I show you for song and for log data. And that's it. So now that my ETL ran, I want to check if it's correct. So I'm going to open the test Jupyter Notebook. So if you want to open Jupyter Notebooks here at your terminal, just write Jupyter Notebook. You have to install it. I install it via Anaconda. So if you do a Google search for Anaconda package manager, it's similar to Homebrew. You can install that, and I think it comes with the Anaconda installation, Jupyter Notebook. All right. Since I was already in that folder, it opens a Safari window or your Internet Explorer window in the same folder that I was, and so I want to open the test, right? You may or may not need to import some of this in your terminal. Since I did this some months ago, I do not remember if I had to import some of this, like Sidecop. So, but what I remember doing was just like Googling imports, I don't know, Sidecop, G2 for Jupyter Notebook. And oh, it comes with Anaconda, so it like tells you how to do the whole thing. So a Google search is your best bet. All right, so I'm going to just run each of this. This is a magic line for running SQL in Jupyter Notebook, and here I changed this to my user, which is Ortiz Garcia. This is my password. This is the default port, and this is the name of my database. So you need to make this match the scripts that you have. And I'm going to run it, and it's connected now to the Postgres database. And now it's time of the truth. And it runs, and it is populated. This is my song play table. Awesome. So that's how I know that it works. All right, I only have one song. That's why it just have one, and all my tables are populated now, and I can be sure that my ETL worked. All right, and that's how you do it. Okay, so just once again, as a brief reminder, the article I'm using is getting started with PostgreSQL on Mac OS by Code Mentor Community. And basically, you have to install the Homebrew package manager. With that, you install Postgres, and you can open the Postgres command line and see what is your default role and or user, and you can set up a password, and you can set up a database. And once you have that, you have to change the database role and password in your scripts. And once you have done that, it's pretty much the same as what you did on the workspace, which is just running the different scripts, and you can check everything on the test Jupyter Notebook, which you can launch from the terminal, and make sure you change the user, the password, and the database, and you're done. So that's how you run project number one locally. I'm planning on doing more of these videos. I'm watching some videos to run project number two locally. Project number three shouldn't be there shouldn't be a problem, since you are connecting to the Redshift cluster that you made in your AWS account. So don't forget that your AWS, well, that's that, all right? So don't forget that your AWS project let me share it with you. Um, your project about data warehouses is due this Tuesday, so please keep working on that. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to ask for help. A brief walkthrough. Basically, you have to write all your drop queries, your create statements, um, your insert statements, and that's it. So most of the programmatic work is being done here. And here in the DWH.cfg, you have to include the endpoint and the ARN for the Redshift cluster and the user role that you set up via AWS, right? In the AWS dashboard. So if you have any questions regarding how to do that, please watch the previous webinar, which you have the link to in the Slack group. And if you can find it, just ask for it. I mean, it's as easy as that. And don't forget, you can schedule a one-on-one meeting with me and see you at Slack. All right. So have a nice weekend, and I know you'll be able to tackle this project. So have a nice day. Bye bye.